Thank you for joining us today. My name is Amber Denault, and I am one of the instructional designers at the Instructional Design Center, the IDC. And I just kind of want to start today with what your thoughts are of when you think of the word accessibility, what do you think of? And we have some people here in the room, we have some people in the chat. So if you're willing to share what you think of when you think of accessibility, go ahead and enter that in on the chat. Or if you want to share here in the room, that'd be great as well.
Screen readers and physical spaces that are designed for different needs of different people.
We have screen readers and rooms that are laid out for multiple uses for multiple people.
Closed caption
Closed
on
captioning
TV and movies.
for TV, movies. Anything in the chat?
All learners can access materials based on their learning needs.
That's a wonderful answer. That's a great answer. Um, Accessibility is a big part of things that are coming up in legislation, things that we're thinking about in our classes. And so today we want to talk about how Blackboard can help you out with that with Ally. There's indicators in there. We're going to talk about what those mean, some of the tips for fixing content in your course. Focus on making the most important parts of your course as accessible as possible to serve all students equitably. We'd like our courses to be 100% accessible, but that's a work in progress. So you just want to start making improvements on the things that are most important first. Why accessibility? Accessibility benefits our entire campus community, including students, faculty, and staff with disabilities. The CDC reports that over 28% of US adults have disabilities, while college students, the disabilities have doubled to nearly 21% in the last 2 decades. Many disabilities remain invisible, and only 37% of students disclose the information of their disability upon entering college. So that severely limits their access to helpful supports. And creating accessible content will help with everyone's success. Why now? We're living in a digital world, and access to technology is essential for education, employment, and daily life. Accessibility ensures everyone can participate. There's also legislation that's requiring higher ed institutions to make electronic and information technology accessible to meet the web content accessibility guidelines. UDL is an important part of this. If you're not familiar with UDL, it's a way of thinking about teaching and learning that provides all students with equitable opportunities to learn. A key principle is inclusion, where every learner is supported in accessing education in ways that meet their individual needs. Now, when thinking about your course, what are you going to prioritize first? As an instructor, you're the best judge of what's important in your course, what materials are going to be the most important to your students, and what will have the greatest impact on their learning. With that in mind, it does make sense to identify the most serious issues first, since those are most likely to make the biggest difference for students. So thinking about your syllabus, your textbook, the required readings, those are going to be the first places students go when they work in your course. The other things to consider is is there a module or a unit or an assignment where you get lots of questions from your students more than anywhere else? Could you address these questions by providing more information or more resources? Or could you answer the questions from your lectures if it's something from your lectures? Could providing those materials help answer those questions for you? Those are some things to think about that you could maybe add into your course to help with accessibility, and it will save you time because then you're not answering those repetitive questions from your students. Now we're going to jump into Blackboard so you can see what Ally looks like and how it works. So in this course, I just made one module that has a bunch of different documents that you would probably be adding into your course as well. We're going to start in the instructor view so you can see what it looks like from there. And then we'll hop into the student view so you can also see how they see it. And that way, if they have questions for you, you can help kind of show them where to go. I started off with a syllabus. So in here, I put 3 different examples of the same syllabus. So you can kind of see the different stages of editing that I've done to it. So you can kind of look at the scores and see the different scores. So in Ally, they have it kind of looks like a little gas gauge, and they're definitely different colored depending on how accessible they are. So if you hover over that gas gauge, you can see it gives you an accessibility score, a medium. And if you click on it, it will take you in there and show you the things that you would need to improve. So in this first syllabus, it's just the information, there's no special headings on it.
We're not seeing,
Oh, we're not seeing, oh, gotta go. I'll show you the gauge again, being you guys didn't get to see that online. I'll go back out and show that once I get out of this document. But once you click on that gauge, you can get into the document. It shows you the percentage, 48%. And it does give you information if they have it available on what you need to do to fix the document to make your accessibility score better. So in this instance, it says the document does not have headings. And you can see the document, it will display it. Most of the time it will. Sometimes if it's a big document, it has an issue doing the preview, but you can still see the different areas. And so you can see when I scroll through this document, there are bigger text print size of the areas, but they're not labeled as a heading. So that's the important part. What I like about Ally is you can click on what this means, and it does explain what the headings are and why you should use them, how it helps your students. So I think that's really important, so that if you're not aware of it, it does tell you why this will help your students. And then if you're not sure how to do the headings, you can click on this how to add headings part, and it will have links out to Word or whatever kind of document you're using, showing you how to add those headings to your document.
Amber, I have a question.
Yes.
Will Ally read any type of file, like a PDF, a Word document, or a PowerPoint?
Question was, will Ally read any type of document like a PDF? And yes, it will read Word documents, it will read PDFs, and I do have some examples of PDFs coming up too. But you can do your PowerPoints, your documents, and PDFs in here. And some people have um, third parties a little tricky, but yeah, it will do any of those that you upload. This next version, you see it's green, but it's still, the little gauge isn't all the way to the end. So it's still not perfect with the accessibility. It wouldn't be 100%, but it is a lot higher. And that's because I went in and did add headings onto this document, but it's saying now that the table in the document is missing headings. So if you just put a heading on there and don't label it as a heading, again, accessibility wise, screen readers and stuff aren't going to be able to recognize that. So you have to actually label it as a heading. Again, it has the what it means, how to set table headers. So that's kind of nice, showing you the information on how to get there. It also has the option, like you saw in the last one, to if you make a version with the headers, you can just upload it right in this window, and it will have it fixed for you. So you can drop the file, you can browse and find it on your computer and add it right here if you make the correction. You cannot make the corrections in Blackboard. That is one of the things it won't let you do. You have to do it on the actual document and then re-upload the document.
Is it question, Amber, but who has access to Ally?
Question was, who has access to Ally? Anyone that has a Blackboard course. You all have Ally available to you to use on your
As an
course.
instructor, you have to be an instructor.
Instructors, I believe anyone that can upload content, so TAs would be able to have that access to. And again, like students can see the downloadable versions, they can't see all of these scores and stuff that doesn't show on their end. But anyone that is working in a course, they can see that Ally score if you can add the content.
You see it outside of the course? Or it has to be part of the course that you're,
It's in the course. Yeah, you see all the information in the course.
as a staff member, I was curious.
Right. You can't just look at a course and see the course score. Yeah.
I wanted to be able to upload something and check if it's accessible.
Oh, yeah, if you would just did it in your course, and sometimes if it's a big file, it takes a little while for it to process if how the score is, how good your score is. If it's a bigger document, it can take a while. But then you'll see that little gauge on there, and then you'll know it's processed it all the way, and you can see your score on it, but you'd have to upload it in there.
So if I don't have a class and a staff member, but I'm creating documents, I wouldn't be able to use Ally to do,
Right.
use some other accessibility checker.
Right. Yeah. If you didn't have a course, if you were just a staff member, it'd be difficult you wouldn't be able to use Ally. Yeah. Yes.
Something you have to turn on in your course.
You do not have to turn Ally on in your course. It's automatically on. Yes.
And see, and you're not using the right version of the file.
Well, they have Ally in original too. You can see the scores. Looks a little different, but we're definitely promoting the Ultra because everybody's going to be going to Ultra. So I guess I would say Lori's helping with that. If you're not seeing your scores, you definitely could reach out to us with the ticket and we can look into that for you. In my final version of a syllabus here, you'll see when I hover over it, it says perfect because I went back in and I put those headings onto my table and labeled them as headings. So it's saying right now that it's a perfect document. So this would be accessible to anyone that wanted to view it. Next up is course schedule, which is another important one. I tried to hit some of those big important documents that you'd be putting in there for your students, the ones that would give them the most information. So in this version, it's a medium, 66%. It says that it contains tables that are missing headers. So this is kind of what I was talking about in your syllabus, where they have the headings on there, date, topics, reading, but they're not labeled as headers in the document. So it wouldn't read it as headers. So that's why it's giving it that accessibility score. The other thing you'd have to be concerned about, it's not showing it as an issue, but color contrast is another big one for students. So being sure that you have a nice ratio difference between your text and any color you add, because a lot of people like to use color and colored text, but you have to make sure for those students that have color blindness or visual disabilities, that they're able to see that.
Would a screen reader tell you if something is in color?
It does not, a screen reader does not tell you if it's in color. So if it's important information, don't use just color to emphasize that it's important. To use words too. Exam handout, which some people like to use, like to draw an example in the class and then they provide that in like a test handout for them to ask questions about it. So like in this example, like it's definitely more of like a math type thing, but they have it drawn out. And so when it's when it's in Blackboard, it's coming across as an image. And so if a student's using a screen reader and there's no alt text on it, they can't understand what's going on in the picture. So you can see this one got 27% on the score because it's an image without a description. So you'd have to put some alt text in there that would be able to explain this picture in case a student isn't able to see it. This one got to 68%. It's lower on the document. What's also nice too is I'll point out if it is finding errors or corrections that could be made, it does put the number at the top and you can click on these arrows and it will scroll you through the document. It'll jump to that next one so you can find it easily without having to scroll through the whole document. But again, this one says this is a table because they created the text in a table, and so it's saying there's no header on it. PowerPoints are another big one. You have to be careful with if you use templates that you're picking a template that has a good color contrast. That becomes a big one. And if you're adding any images or word art, that has descriptions for it as well. So this one is high, 94%, but it's saying that it doesn't have a insufficient contrast. So the color contrast between the text and the color on the back of the slide are not a big enough difference in ratio for people to see. Or if the other thing you have to think of too, it's not necessarily just colorblind. If somebody has to take their classes outside or there's a lot of glare, screen glare is a big thing, makes it hard to see if there isn't good color contrast too. But you can see now at the top, it's showing there's 17. I can click on the down arrow and it will just jump through to the next. You can kind of see the different areas. Again, you'd have to go back into your actual PowerPoint, make the corrections, and then re-upload the new PowerPoint with those corrections. This URL is another one that's saying that it's insufficient contrast for the color. So making sure you're not using different colors for your URLs. Normally the ones that generate naturally have the right color contrast as long as you don't have a different colored background out there. So just making sure you don't change it so that it's accessible. And I even put in my PowerPoint for today, make sure that that was accessible too. And that one worked out, so that's good. Again, so here's an example of an image. So it has information in it, but technically it's an image. So you would want to make sure any of that important text that's in that image is in the alt text so that the students would be able to see that as well. You can't just have it up there like that. They wouldn't see any of those words up there. They wouldn't be able to read that. The screen reader wouldn't read it to them. So just making sure you have that alt text in there. PDFs are another big one because we like to put stuff in our course so that students can't alter it. It's just in there for information. Um, the main thing with PDFs is tagging items. So it's a little different. They call it tagging. And that's where you want to focus on headings, any images you have. Those are what you want to put tags on so that you can put a description in if it's a heading, if it's alt text. So you want to tag the PDF. If you create it, let's say you create a Word document and you have all the headings and you have the alt text in your Word document, when you save it as a PDF, that will automatically tag it for you. So if you have it accessible already as the original version, Word, PowerPoint, and then save it as a PDF, your accessibility score should be good. So as long as you're checking it in advanced, that will work. So in this example, there's a medium score, but it contains images without description. So you can see it's a PowerPoint that was saved as a PDF, which not a problem, but all of the images they put in the PowerPoint didn't have alt text on it. So now it's saying that there's images without descriptions. So even if it's an image that's not important, mark it as decorative in your PowerPoint before you turn it into that PDF, and that will help your accessibility score too. So that's the main thing. If it's important, write in what you want them to know from it. If it's not, mark it as decorative. But once you fix those changes, it will improve your document. So you can see there's an image on each one. Sometimes we just add images that are relevant, but not necessarily the information of it is important, but it helps them with understanding the content. So again, adding in that alt text is very important. There are some examples of this is just a document that was scanned. So if you had a printed out document, you wanted to put it in your course, you didn't have a digital version of it, so you scanned it and put it in your course, it got a 0%. And that's what's going to happen every single time because nothing's tagged. It can't read off of anything. It's honestly just a giant picture. Everything, even if you scan multiple pages, it's just one giant picture in your course. They can't read anything off of it with a screen reader. You can take PDFs and add tags, but you have to have Acrobat Pro on your computer in order to do that. If you do not have it on your computer, we do have it available in the IDC lab, and we do have student employees that would be able to show you how you could tag your document. And that way you could come in and work whenever you wanted to tag any PDFs that you have. If you wanted to recreate it as a Word document, then you could make sure you hit all those accessibility issues, right? And then bring it into your course. You absolutely could do that.
Save it as a Word document and see, and then clean it up maybe?
I know like some PDFs you can turn into Word documents, but it's not always the same. Like it doesn't bring over all of the right settings and it doesn't necessarily look the same. The layout's not the same.
Depends on the quality of the
It
CD
depends.
too.
Yeah. And most of the time it works best if it's something that was originally a Word document turned into a PDF, then you could open it back up as a Word document. But if you're just scanning a piece of paper, it doesn't really work. So you wouldn't want to go that route. You'd be better just recreating it. So yeah, so avoid scanning documents as PDFs. That's a really low score in your course. So again, this is a document that looks really nice. It's came from a website you can see on the bottom there, but it's saying that it's not tagged. So this would be one that you could open up in Adobe Pro and do auto tagging and it would hit those headings and stuff. It doesn't get everything with the auto tagging because it doesn't necessarily know what you want to put as alt text for images and stuff like that. It doesn't necessarily auto tag a table. So making sure that you kind of go through and add in those as well would be good.
Can I ask one more question, Amber?
Yes.
You have something that you really don't, you can't retype it. It's a book chapter or something, you know, and you need it for your class. Can you, like, are there other ways you can mitigate this? Like, you can't fix the document. Can you offer students an alternative assignment if they are unable to access it? Like, what would you do if you really felt like you needed to share it?
So the question was if you have like a book chapter that you wanted to share, it was impossible to recreate it on your own. The question was, could you offer an alternative assignment that would be more accessible? Absolutely. That's always a wonderful practice. That would be like UDL, where you offer multiple ways of doing an assignment, multiple ways of submission, multiple ways of presenting the content. So that way they would be able to do it in which way works best for them.
From the work of the library too.
I'll say you could see if the library could find you a digital version. Yeah, that's another great way because I did throw one in here. I was glad you asked that, but I did throw in an example of a scanned article. You can see, like I mentioned, it sometimes takes a while to load. So this is like a book that was scanned. Um, and you can see it it's labeling it all as images without descriptions. So the whole textbook is coming across that way. So this would be one where if you worked with the library, maybe they could find a digital version that you could add to your course or a link. Maybe there's an online version that they could view as well. This article was another one. So in this version, it was an untagged PDF. Again, it's like you said, like an article that you'd found that you liked from a book. But in the next one below that, went in with the PDF with Adobe Pro, added in those tags, and it bumped it up to 98%. So that's a big improvement if you just do those small changes. This one's another scan one, but you can see the original version, the textbook itself has insufficient contrast. So there's not much you can really change about that. But you could probably add in different ways, like you said, of getting that same information. If it was important information, you could put in some descriptions so your students would be able to see that. But it's still scored a 99%, which is better than just a scanned PDF. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to show you how you can see the score for your whole entire course. So in your details and actions window over here, you'll go to books and tools, view course and institution tools. And then right at the top, it says Anthology Ally. You can view your accessibility report. So you can see that this overall course that I made with just one module in it, it's at 77%, but it does show you the content you have in your course, how much, you can kind of see that. You can take a view of that and it will open up all of the list of all the things you have in there. It'll show each individual score. You can go into the document that way too through the little gauge. So you can see everything listed down here. I can go back to the overview. And then what's nice is if you're not sure where to start, it does list the easiest fixes up there, how many documents you have, that'd be really easy to fix really fast. And then the lowest scoring content, so the ones that would make the most improvement in your course. So if you do click on start, it lists just those documents that you'd be able to fix quickly or that need the most improvement. And you can go into them just like we did before, clicking on that gauge. It'll open it up into that same window we saw before. And finally, I want to show you the student view.
Everyone has access to that as well if they're an instructor.
Student preview is available to everybody. So if you go into student preview, you can see how your students are seeing it. Like I said, they will not see that gauge that we saw. But let's say if I click on syllabus here, it'll bring up those same documents that were in there. The only difference is they see this download alternative formats option. So if you click on that, it will list the different ways that students can view this document. So they can do tagged PDF is what's selected now, HTML, ePub for like an ebook, electronic braille if they used one of those electronic braille readers, audio, so an MP3 version, it will read it to them. And you can actually sample this out in the student preview. It'll play and you'll be able to hear what it sounds like for your students. Beeline reader, immersive reader, and then the other option, which I think is really nice, is the translated version. And if you click on that, it has a list of tons of different languages for you to choose from that it will translate this document into. So your students, you wouldn't have to do that for them. They would be able to pick that option and select what works best for them.
That work.
I haven't tried it yet because I wouldn't know well enough. I don't know enough languages that I would be able to know if it was translating it correctly, but I would be really curious to see. We might have to have someone that we know that speaks multiple language try it out for us, right? And then the one thing I wanted to point out is it's something we're not super thrilled with, but we're hoping Blackboard will fix it, is if you put a document in an assignment or in a discussion, it does not give the alternative download formats for students. So like for example, I opened up this assignment and when I go in to view it, you'll see it does not have that icon there that kind of looks like a little A. So the students can't download an alternative format if you put a document in the assignment. So if it was really important information, recommend putting it outside of the document, having them read it before they go into the assignment. That way they'd have that option to do multiple formats. Like I said, it's for assignments specifically and discussions. So if you added it to a discussion, same thing, the document's in there, but it doesn't give them that alternative format. It does let you do it in tests and journals. So I threw one in a test real quick just so you could kind of see. It does give me that alternative formats inside the test. So if you wanted to put a document in there with directions, you could. And then the journal, same thing, it does give you that option in the journal. Any questions that you have today? There's been great ones all along the way, but any now that we're at the end?
It scans and gives like, you don't have any headings. Is that specifically like if you're creating it in Word, that you have to create it as a specific heading? You can't just like bold it and make it.
The question was if you have a PDF in there and it's saying that there aren't any headings, is it different than just making it bold, bigger size text? And the question is, yes, it is. You have to specifically go, like if you're in Word at the top, there's always an option for title, heading 1, heading 2. And that's what it's looking for. It's looking for that label of heading 1, heading 2. You always want to start with the highest first and then work your way down as you go through a document. So you want to make all of your, like, let's say it was your syllabus, if you wanted textbook or course materials, that would be like a heading 1. And then if you had stuff underneath that, you'd make it a heading 2, then go back to heading 1 if it's another important area. But yeah, you would have to do that in your Word document with those headings options.
Okay, that Word will automatically do that for you if you tell it you're creating a document?
Will Word do that for you automatically? It can kind of get intuitive like as you're going through, but not right away. You definitely normally have to say heading 1. I'm going to highlight this, make it heading 1.
Google kind of gives you a head start on that idea.
Accessibility checker, Microsoft.
There is an accessibility checker in Microsoft. It's a great one. It will like kind of do similar to what Ally was doing and show you the different areas that you can make improvements.
And then for the image, it will like suggest you some of the alternative text that.
Yes, Word will auto-populate alt text for your images, which is nice. And actually Blackboard does too. If you put an image in there, it will populate alt text automatically. Whether it's what you want it to be, you'd have to check and make sure. I also want to throw out there, if you're interested in accessibility, we do have a UDL accessibility self-paced course that you can sign up for through our IDC website. We have lots of resources on there. So please go to there if you have any questions, and you can always put in a ticket and we can meet with you. Me and Lori would love to work with you on your courses if you needed help with anything.